Thank you for, as you know, this is a focus group sponsored NASCAS State Monitoring Group. And I know we're going to have a very interesting focus group this afternoon. I know I will get some thoughtful consideration to the many questions I'm going to be asking. Before we do a roll call, just to make sure and ask a couple of questions, got cameras, turn them on. If you don't, that's not a problem. You should mute yourselves just so we don't get background. We are recording. And then mute yourselves when you talk. I know that may be hard to remember. But if you're in a quiet place, just leave yourselves unmuted. We have put the 3 documents that we asked you to review across the top of your screen. We are not going to be looking at those or bringing them up, but if you need to look at them, you can call those up yourself. So we did send hard copies, but if you need to quickly look, they're up there. We won't be putting them on the screen. So a quick roll call of everybody who's on. And I want to start with our 4 focus group members. If you could give us your name, a state you're in, and more importantly, when your state was last monitored. Anyone can start.
Tunde Wada from DC.
Okay, and Tunde, when was your state last, or when was DC last monitored?
I was in 2015. I believe it was March 2015.
Oh, 2015. Terrific. Thanks. Next.
This is Doug Wallace with Kansas, and U.S. monitored March of 2018.
2018. Well, that's fresh in your memory. Okay. James or Jamie?
So Maine was last monitored in 2010, and we are being currently monitored with our on-site visit next week.
Oh, getting you ahead of the thing. Okay, so 2018. James?
James in South Carolina, and we were monitored May 2016.
Okay. So what this group represents, you should see the trend, is we've pulled together some states that are sort of some smaller grantees who were recently monitored in the last 2-3 years. Those of you that have, perhaps experienced some different things than those that were monitored long ago. Okay. Mention this is back one. This is a group that's sponsored by NASCAS at the request of OCS, and we've put together a really good working group. We have Beverly Buchanan from Arkansas, Matt Fitzgerald from Virginia, Lauren Perry from Indiana, Greg Piper from Iowa, Chris Hoff from Michigan, Bill Boldick and Alicia, both from OCS, and then Janae, Jackie, and Muska from NASCAS. So we have a good working group who's been at this since in April, and we're talking, and now we want to get some feedback from the network. So we're holding some focus groups over the next few weeks, and you all are the first, sort of our guinea pigs. So forgive us if there's some glitches here, but we hopefully will be able to move this right along. Next, of this group is to assist OCS in obtaining a better understanding of the feedback that you all gave on the ACSI. And we're going to go over that in a minute. But we look at that and build on it and give feedback about some changes that OCS has made in response to the survey and see how responsive that is to the concerns that the network raised. And then we want to assist OCS in providing some common understanding about the new procedures. Everybody is aware of what's happening. Some of you who are being monitored like next week may have a little better sense, so we'll see. Next, before asking bunches of questions, I wanted to give you a brief overview of OCS grant monitoring, just to put the rest of our conversation in a bit of a context. OCS is trying to focus on their goals in terms of this reengineering, which is what I've been helping them with, is focusing on one OCS. So they're trying to have some procedures and processes that cut across all the different programs, like CSBG, like LIHEAP, like the Community Economic Development Program, various programs across OCS. They're focused on improving the efficiency and effectiveness of monitoring. They've heard from all of you that there are some issues. They know there have been some things that haven't worked as well. So they're really trying to do some things to improve that. And focusing on clarity, on timeliness, and usefulness of their procedures and visits. And you see that clarity, timeliness, and usefulness are very attributes that we asked in the ACSI survey. So this has kind of been their focus. Next. Quick, you've all seen this, but where our starting point, the ACSI survey that was conducted in 2016. We had some good news and then some information about what needed to be improved. The good news is that grant monitoring, which is high impact area, which means an important thing for grantees, improved significantly, improved by 15 points. And then hard work. What mostly improved was the procedures and how grantees view the relevance of that, the usefulness of the visits, that a big bump. Clarity feedback saw some improvement, less improvement in terms of some of the usefulness, clarity, and of course the timeliness. We know timeliness has been an issue in terms of getting those reports out on time. So there's some focus on that. That's the place we're starting in terms of understanding what needs to be improved. Next. In the ACSI feedback very seriously. They established an internal work group to recommend changes in the grant monitoring process, in the letters, in the time frames, to address some of the issues that the grantees have raised. So the point of this is to review some of those changes and to get some feedback. We want to know if this is better. Don't want to fully implement something if we don't know that it's better. Sort of what's new. OCS is now looking at one OCS in terms of having a priority assessment process. Some of you may have known it as a risk assessment. They now look at all OCS grantees in one fell swoop instead of program by program. Come up with a financial monitoring tool, which we will look at today, that will be used for all the programs. The being looking at the books is looking at the books. Program administration monitoring tool, which is customized for each program, but some basic features that are similar. Having a document request list that is just one list, and different things for different programs, but again, is one list, should make it easier for staff to deal with. We're going to look at that today. Have templates for reports and letters, so things are done more easily, they're consistent, should be easier for everybody to review. Have consistent monitoring timeframes and deadlines across OCS. In other words, for a state that has both LIHEAP and CSBG to have different timeframes for every time someone comes out. So we're trying to have some consistent timeframes. We're going to look at the timeframes today and get some feedback. And then establishing a process for tracking the required corrective action and TNTA. There has been very good consistent tracking, so now we're developing some processes about that. So there you are with where OCS is. Next, let's talk a little bit about focus groups. So James, Jamie, Doug, and Tundi, have you participated in focus groups in the past?
Yes, I have, Tunde.
I have not.
Tundi.
Okay.
John.
All right. So this will be a good learning thing for you, and I'm sorry that you're having to do it over a webinar. This is a first for me. I've conducted hundreds of focus groups over my long career, and this is the first time I've ever tried to do it on a webinar, so this is interesting. Next, so in terms of focus groups, what's the purpose of a focus group? You know, in general, it's to get good thinking of people who have knowledge, who have experience, a particular service or a product, or some subject. And clearly that's what you all have been monitored somewhat recently, so you have some experience with this and can give us some feedback. The purpose of this focus group is to get your feedback as a follow-up to the ACSI survey, you know, some of the new tools, the templates, timeframes. OCD wants to be sure that the new tools and templates are clear, that they're helpful to you, and you are, you know, obviously the people that can give us some of that information. Next. Very quickly, my goal is to just ask a lot of questions. I'm going to solicit positives and negatives, any ideas and suggestions. I'm going to keep the discussion flowing, and please, I'm going to apologize in advance if ever I seem abrupt or cut you off. I'm trying to move us along. Please forgive me if that happens. I'm just going to keep us flowing. I want to keep us on time. Those of you who know me know that I like to keep things moving, keep them on time. I want to make sure that all of your opinions are heard. So we'll do in terms of the 4 of you, and originally had 6, and then in the last couple of days, 2 people were not able to attend. But what I like to do is kind of have a go-around. So your name is on some cards, and I will just call on you and ask you to respond to the question. But if you don't have an answer, you don't want to respond, then you can just say pass, and I'll move to the next person. I think that may save us some time instead of trying to talk over each other, and you know how that is. Since I can see you, I thought maybe using the cards will work. If by some chance I miss you or you want to raise your hand, you can do that. Hopefully I'll see you if you raise your hand. But hopefully you can use the cards and that'll work. Next. Yeah. Some quick rules. This is true for most focus groups. There are no wrong answers. This is a thing where there's a right or wrong. We're just trying to get your views. It's okay to disagree with each other. I am not trying to reach a consensus. I just want to hear views. It can be 4 separate things. If you agree, that's fine. If you don't, no problem. We're not going to use your names in any written report. The team is going to give some report back to OCS in terms of what we heard and our recommendations. None of you will be named. We speak one person at a time. We need you to speak clearly. We are going to be taking notes. We're recording the session. So the clearer we can be, the easier it will be for all of us to make sure we catch everything. So now on to the good part. So now we're going to have some general questions for us to get started and just to give us some. So my first question to the 4 of you is the best monitoring site visit you've ever experienced, whether it was CSBG, LIHEAP, or Head Start, or how many programs you may look at. That best monitoring site memorable. So too about what made it memorable. Jim, you want to start?
I don't know if you want to know who it was, but I think, you know, we have pretty good, we've had some problems in our state with weatherization. Our office does weatherization through Department of Energy. And I think the best monitoring we've had is when they've come in with more of a feeling of how do we address issues, more of a collaborative, let's talk through things, more of a, not we're here to have findings or something, but more of a, okay, we all agree you have an issue. And when the monitors sat down and really discussed how can we correct these things.
Okay, a collaborative effort, I fix problems, that's what made that memorable. Great.
My first monitoring visit ever.
Oh, you have a blank slate, you're just hoping for the best. Good, that's terrific.
Absolutely.
Doug? Okay, Doug?
I think the recent CSBG monitoring, I've been with the state for a couple of years, so this is my first one in this role, but I've been involved with ones from other agencies, and I think this CSBG one was the best I've experienced.
Memorable. What made it the best?
Just the monitor sitting down with us and talking about what they had questions about or concerns. They really spent some time with us about things before our interview, so it gave us an opportunity to respond and give them additional information.
Okay, having conversations, being able to exchange information and really understand what they were talking about. Okay, that's terrific. Tunde?
All right, so last one that we had in March of 2015 was memorable. The opportunity to participate in the planning of the exercise itself made us a partner in the process rather than the object of the process. So that took away any anxiety that may be building up amongst the team on the stage.
Okay, terrific. So we have some themes here: collaboration, being able to talk things over, feeling like this was something that a part in trying to make things better. Good thoughts. So, give one word would you use to describe OCS grant monitoring? Since you have been monitored, you have some memory of it. One that you would use to describe it.
I have to pass. I can't think of a word right now.
Okay, no problem. Tunde?
Partnership.
Good. James?
I'll say stressful.
Okay, great. That's fine. Jamie? Oh, Jamie, you haven't had one yet, so you don't have a word. Did I come up with one word yet?
Stressful. Can we use the same word?
Stressful. No problem. Next. Thank you.
And then I can say that so far has been stressful.
Stress. Okay. So we have some stress over all of this. So okay, let's try to get to some of the root of that and how we can make that maybe so. So the specific areas we're going to talk about today are the document request list, the monitoring tools, two tools, the unified financial tool and the program tool, the monitoring timeframes, and the training that may be needed by you all. Next. So with the documents requested, we sent you the proposed document request list. It's one list that LIHEAP and CSBG would use. And I know one of you have both LIHEAP and CSBG. Who is that?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Yeah, South Carolina. Okay. So your views on this will be particularly helpful. So the purpose of the document request list is to, and particularly for OCS staff, but to make it easy for the grantees, list every kind of document we might want. Sometimes we won't be asking for these, but we it's for yes, we want this and when we want it by, and it just kind of becomes something routine, one easy document that's attached to the engagement letter, as opposed to some long list of documents within the letter. Next. Oh, chance to look at it. If you check document request list, my first question is, looking at the format and the content of that list, what questions would you have for OCS if this was sent to you? And was anything on the list a surprise? But let's start with, what questions would you have? Is there anything that you would say, oh, gee, here's what I don't understand? Give you a second there. And I call again, but if you have a response right away, again, remember you can pass. But let's start with James. What questions would you have?
I'll try now.
Okay.
I don't have any questions about this list. This list actually brought clarity to me in comparison to the list that I received.
Okay, you received a different list than this list.
Setting-wise, yes, the breakdown of type of document category really kind of broke down for me in our state, because we have a lot of varying different entities that do a lot of this work, not just the state office. It would help me direct my use of these documents a lot easier. It made it more clear of where I could turn to get all of these documents. So if I listened to this list, I would have had a lot less questions.
Point. Okay, thank you. Doug?
Well, my first question would be on what data they're looking at. So it would be helpful if they, in the request list, if they would specify dates. So I'm trying to find an example. So I tell general ledger, what dates were they wanting on that? It's about looking for a list of the board members for our agencies and why that's necessary. Wanted to look at our board the composition of the boards and help or vacancies and the vacancies for the names. I fill that question as well. I guess I would want more information around that.
Okay.
Those are just a couple of the initial ones that I see as I'm looking at this.
Okay. And when you say time frames, you're talking about not the time frame for getting the information back, but the time frame for what period of information they want.
Correct, yes.
It's 2000. Okay, excellent point. Okay. Tunde?
Yes. Number 22 talks about a loan portfolio underwriting. I was at that one. I didn't think what we do is related to making loans or receiving loans.
Okay. Yep, that would be yours. That would be a discretionary fund. That's a good point. Okay. Anything else?
That's about the only one I'm not familiar with. Right.
Okay. Come back to you, James.
To say, in fairness, but the way our office is set up, generally, if gotten this list, I basically will forward it to, different departments. So, I'm looking at it. Some of it, I don't even know what the question is, to be honest with you. Because basically, just the way we're set up, like I have a whole finance folks that anything to do with finance.
So would it be easier for you to get lists to be able to set forward pieces of it to the appropriate people? Does it make it clear to you who should be answering this in your state? That helps you.
Yes, well, yeah, that's a great point. That I'm just me looking at it real quick. I'm not sure even who should be answering some of these questions. So yes, I think some way to divide it up, would be good for me.
Okay, so let's look at the type of document category. So we have administrative, financial, procurement, Fed reporting. Is not clear to you, given what type of category it is, who in office or who in your state would be answering that?
Well, at the risk of sounding like an idiot here, like if I'm just looking at it real quickly, like when I see number 3, administrative list of board members, what boards are we talking about? Are we talking about board members at a sub-grantee level? And then it looks like some of such questions would be more for the state office, where some of them look like they're asking questions for the grantee. And my program folks might look at this and understand a little bit more what the questions are. So it may be that James is the one that doesn't understand it, but
but we need you to understand it. Yeah, we need you to understand. So this is very helpful. So thank you. Okay, so list of board members not clear. We need to be able to be more specific. Back to you.
I that's it for right now.
Okay, that's very helpful. We'll go through some of that with more we can add. Okay. there documents on this list that would require additional description or information before you could submit them? You just mentioned one, James, in terms of the list of board members. What boards are we talking about? And else that you all see that you would think you'd want some more information? Yeah, go ahead.
I'm looking at line 39, and a big issue for us when we were monitored is we were going through a de-designated agency. So as I'm looking at line 39 there, corrective action report or quality improvement plan, who is that talking about? Is that talking about the state being on a corrective action, or is it talking about an individual entity?
Okay. So it sounds like some of the questions have to do with talking, what information do you want about whom? Is it the state? Is it the entity? Who is it? Okay, that's a good point. Other, Jamie, anything in this list that requires description before you could submit?
Not at this time. Again, just being at that point where my actual on-site review is coming next week, and the confusion that my state has kind of gone through this week, this actually would have alleviated some of those questions, at least from my perspective and where we were a week ago. And so, but I do appreciate the delineation of where are these documents coming from in the sense of who are we about. We're talking about sub-grantees or grantees. That would also be helpful, just to be as specific as possible.
Okay, Doug?
Yeah, I think only one would be, again, number 3, the list of board members, and also, as was previously stated, whom are we talking about? Is it grantees? Is it the state office?
Oh, great. Cindy?
Yes. In unlikely event that the state is a recipient of waivers to use CSBG funds for other purposes, it will be helpful if, as staff change in the state office, if the draw office will provide the conditions that supported the waiver, we can work back in the state to make sure that those conditions are in fact have inherited procedure. But in the event that those records are not there, it has to answer questions on some of those waiver conditions.
Okay. All right, so before we move on, is there anything else any of the 4 of you would like to add to this?
Not really about the form itself, but about the...
Can you talk a little? I can't hear you. Can you talk a little more?
Yeah, one issue that Kansas had when we were monitored in March is it's not the document request form, but we received it on March 14th, and monitoring was March 26th.
Yep, that's an issue.
So we were monitoring went okay, and it was very stressful, not having much time to prepare.
Get to that, but that's a good point. We'll note it right now. Thank you very much. Let's go to the next one then. Are these on the list that you do not feel are relevant to your office? Or anything on there that you think you would like to provide any substitutions? Anything not relevant? That says it should be CSBG. There are some documents that are clearly only for LIHEAP. We know those aren't relevant for those of you that don't have LIHEAP. But are there anything on there that you don't think is relevant?
I think I talked about the loan portfolio.
The what?
The loan portfolio underwriting guideline.
Yes, number 22, right? That's just for discretionary. Yep, you're right.
And also the benefit payment table.
Where is
number 4.
Benefit, yep, that's only for LIHEAP, right? Okay. James?
I don't think so.
Okay, Amy?
I don't think so. I think I might even with a little bit more feedback after next week. But I think that it would be important to point out that where you have deleted that some of the LIHEAP, but they don't say so, as if maybe where either text was color-coded or had the category LIHEAP in front of it, so that way states could rule out that line quickly.
Okay. There are probably a few that only are for LIHEAP, but that's a good point. Okay, thank you. Doug?
Have anything?
Next then, next question. We go to your concern, Doug. How much time does a grantee need after receiving this list? You get this long list, and prior to the on-site visit in order to submit the documents. How long do you need? Doug, how long would you wish you have gotten?
More days.
More days, yeah. What really?
It'd been nice to have maybe 3 months notice. Okay, let me back that up. Solicited information corresponded to aides that were selected, that entities that OCS wanted to go visit. For example, they asked for community assessments for those 3 agencies that were identified for them to visit. I had more time to give to those agencies. We had less than 2 weeks notice to pull documents for OCS. We also had less than 2 weeks to prepare the agencies for that visit. So the two seem to be tied together. 3 months.
Okay, 3 months would be nice. That's sort of what minimum?
30 days.
So you'd like 90, 30 would be the minimum. I hear you. Okay. Tundi?
90 to 120 days. Minimum will be 90. There's a lot of coordination with state partners, particularly those in the central financial offices. They have their own worries to handle. So I'm bringing a program size of very important. CSVG is, but they're handling of millions of dollars, and my program on their calendar has walked into their schedule, not mine. So a minimum 90 days.
Okay. Oh, hear you, James.
Yeah, to be honest again with you, my math generally deals with this, so I think to give a good answer, I need to confer with them. But I think, for the state office, 30 days is good. For coordinating with any of the sub-grantees and getting information from them, we've run into in the past, sometimes if they're coming, our sub-grantees may be in the middle of a Head Start monitoring. So I assume if that's the case, I'd say 90 days as well. But to be honest, I don't know because I haven't had to deal with it one-on-one. So.
Okay, I hear you. All right, that makes sense. Jamie?
So we received a notification in April that this visit coming in. Our required documents were due within 15 days of the letter, but there was no date on the letter. And so by the time we received it, we did 15 days from there. But I think, again, in coordination with the various agencies that handle some of these documents, it is a minimum, but would still be a scramble. 60 would be comfortable. Just of making sure that we did get everything. And I think at the time, again, that was previously noted about those agencies having to work into their calendar. CSVG, they're also handling all the other site visits at the states that have been coordinated. Yep. So,
okay, that's a very good point. 60 was comfortable. Okay. This is what you said in terms of how much time did you get for this visit? How much time did you to submit your documents? Was it 15 days or 30 or what?
15 days from the date of the letter. I think we missed that by about a week.
Oh, so they asked for 15. It took you 21.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Gotcha. Next.
Okay.
Yeah.
If there's a schedule ahead of time, that say in a ballpark period, we may not do you week to 30 days. But if there's no schedule ahead of time, and with a letter that says we're coming out, it had to be ready in less than 90 days.
If you got a schedule way in advance, and okay, I understand.
Right.
In fact, we're going to look at the timetables a little later, but that's a very good point. Okay. Are there any additional fields or columns, if you look at this list, that would be helpful to add to the document? Anything to add? Question. It sounds like, from what a couple of you said, it might be better if we put July heap in front as opposed to the end of the document, at the beginning instead of at the end of the row. Be more helpful?
Yes.
Okay. So if we switch it, because right now you list the document and then we say whether it's CSBG or heap, it might be better to put that in front. Okay, got it. Any other fields or columns you'd add? Okay. Next question. Oh, you missed one. Yeah. What are your technical assistance? What technical assistance will you want or need to prepare for the documents on this request list? Is it help you need and together? Okay. Me?
That, and we're not there yet, but the direct tools that were attached to the agenda for this helped me kind of understand some of these documents where I am so new, and it would have really part of this list, but this training, that would have helped. This tool, the Unified Monitoring Tool, would have helped to be presented at a time. It would help understand some of those documents that I wasn't privy to previous.
Okay, if you'd gotten the Unified Monitoring Tool at the same time you got this list, you would have understood it better?
It just gave me some descriptions and clarity, which I even think some of the confusion that's gone on our state level, it helped to have a little bit more of an overview of what those documents and what their expectations of those documents are.
Okay, Doug?
Amy, that having the monitoring tool provided would have been helpful. Also, having a conference call with one of the OCS monitors to go over the list would have been helpful to prepare.
Okay, with the OCS to go over this list, okay?
The internal partners at the state deal with this on a pro forma basis, so they're quite familiar with withdrawal oversight. So it's nothing particularly different from what they've been accustomed to dealing with.
You don't think they particularly need any technical assistance? Anything you would have needed or liked?
The time is crucial, just so we get the right kind of attention that we need from our internal partners. Sometimes they have to run stuff by various departments within the OCFO of the Chief Financial Officer before they get back to the program office.
So you guys have,
right.
Yep.
So
Yep.
even with the best of relationships, you still need to give them time to get back to you.
Yeah, got their hurdles to jump through too. Okay, understood. James, PATA, training TA?
I think Doug was the one, I'll back up what he said. I think getting us the list and then having a conference call once we have gotten the documents, just basically anything on there is if we need to question. But I think, the timing, make sure that there's ample time that you get all the list, and then I think to schedule a conference call after the fact in case you have any specific questions.
Okay, sounds good. Now we're going to move right into the list or the monitoring tools that you all are hoping that you'd get. So we have two OCS monitoring tools, and these are sort of draft tools that a staff team is proposing to use. one is a unified financial monitoring tool. That would be a tool that's used across OCS programs. Same tool used for LIHEAP, same tool used for CSBG, and a program administrative monitoring tool, which program specific. So look at these two. Sent you those two in advance, so we have a few questions on those. Next, first question. Is there information in the program? So I want to start with the program monitoring tool that you don't understand or is not clear. And what question might that be? You want to start?
I didn't come across anything that was not clear to me.
With prizes on it?
No, no surprises. I speak coming from a monitor. One of the things they looked at is vacancies, how long the seats the empty seats had been efforts that the agencies were doing to fill those vacancies. So those type of questions were asked. They were not on the document request list, so we kind of scrambled to come up with that information from the agency. See it on this one either, so that's something that's missing, if that's what it
Okay. Okay, a good crosswalk. The monitoring to the program monitoring to information on that might have been helpful to be a document request list. Okay, good point. Thank you. Tundi, anything on the tool that wasn't clear?
No, it's fairly okay. The item P31 talk about a monitoring plan and schedule of visits. Again, planning purposes, we do set up one, but changes frequently based on the availability of the eligibility.
Okay. But that was pretty clear to you what was being asked.
Right, it's straightforward.
Oh, terrific. James?
I didn't see anything.
Okay. Is clear when you looked at the program monitoring tool that OCS is going to be asking you about TA you provided to subgrantees that they are at risk, while your state verifies Roma data? Are those pretty clear to you from the program, from this monitoring tool?
Up to James in South Carolina. I'll just, as far as I believe the correction. Let me just say, when we were monitored, I think I've already said this, we were in the process of de-designating an agency. So, most of my takeaway from our monitoring has a lot to do with the corrective action, and I felt like, during the monitoring visit, before the monitoring visit, and even after the monitoring visit, things got clear to us what exactly was acceptable to HHS. As far as they kept referring us to IM 116, but some IM 116, in our opinion, was still left up to what subjective. Training, what constitutes training. How intense should the training, what do you want to see for training? So I know whether part of the monitoring tool, whether that's really where you want to get in, want to get into making it more elaborate to explain exactly what some of that means. I think that would probably make the monitoring tool too cumbersome. But having through that specific issue, we never felt like it was perfectly clear to us. They would say you need to do training and technical assistance. Well, nobody could explain to us exactly what that should look like, exactly what you want to see. Does that make any sense?
Yes, perfectly. Okay, good. Any issue with the Roma data? Question on how you verify that? Is that clear? James or Jamie? Yeah, go ahead. Who?
It's clear to us. I'm sorry.
To you?
That's clear to me. P3.5 could use some clarification. Grantee documentation to support TNTA.
Okay. What's the number?
3.5.
Great. All right. Next question has to do with the Unified Financial Monitoring Tool, the separate tool. Is there anything on that you don't understand or is not clear? And what might that be? Anything missing? Anything surprising?
Right off the bat, give me a minute. I'm kind of going back through it.
No problem.
Wasn't anything on that. Again, it was more helpful for me than it was not helpful. So as we prepare to go through this next week, I'll actually be interested in seeing my feedback after our visit next week.
Terrific. Doug, any comments on this thing?
No comments. I shared it with our fiscal monitor also, and she did not have any feedback either. Her and I worked together on our monitoring visits.
Okay. Did I ask you, Tundi?
No, but it's clear to our internal partners based on their familiarity with processes like this.
Okay, excellent. Sense to you, and I know I'm only asking South Carolina at this point, James, this be one tool for both CSBG and LIHEAP. Does it make it easier for you? Is that us to you?
Yes. And
Can
I
you tell
think,
me?
I think just, we have I'm sorry, monitors that work with CSBG also work with LIHEAP. So I think, we've got the same group, but anytime we can uniform and combine any kind of forms, that's just always helpful because there's really just less to keep up with. And we actually had a meeting about that this morning. So for me, yes, it's absolutely, because it also, for any new staff or for me who's clearly not as educated on some of these, to be able to pick up a single document and sort of go through it and easily maybe see where there's some differences, I think is very nice, having to go through two duplicate files, if you were. So I think it's great.
Wonderful. That's good feedback. One question about this: is it clear from the Unified Financial Tool that OCS is going to be looking at your drawdowns, and that they're going to be looking at whether those drawdowns are against the right grant? Something you expect you'd see from the financial tool that would happen?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that's clear to you. Okay, Jamie?
Yes.
Okay, Doug or James, clear to you?
Yeah, this is Doug. It was.
James, yes.
Okay, thank you. Next. I said some of this, but give me a little bit more info in terms of whether you think these tools should be distributed to the states. Yeah. So, what timing, the fact you want to? Any thought you have about getting these tools in advance? Doug, you want to start with that one?
Yes. Yes, I think they should be provided to the states. I think they should go with the engagement letter, and then they, as I mentioned, with a follow-up conference call to talk about the document request list and maybe the monitoring tool.
Okay.
Yeah, this it answers the questions that are being asked about these documents. I'm sure there's more questions during a monitoring visit, but this kind of, rather than just giving the documents as they're requested, this kind of gives the why. And so that gives clarity around maybe some of additional documents that would be helpful that we could provide ahead of time rather than find out, on visit that we also need something else. A follow-up conference would have been very helpful for additional questions, but this would have alleviated a lot of my initial questions.
Okay, that's the good word. So it would have alleviated a lot of your additional questions. Okay. Tundi?
Yes, it would help if the federal would kind of encourage the state to work as a statewide team, rather than the program having to sell the oversight visit as a program oversight visit. The impact goes beyond just acting the program. It could also impact the state if deficiencies are found, big lack of collaboration between partners within the state.
Doing this in advance would help separation among your different.
It in advance would help, but if it also says in the cover that they're not just a function for the state to worry about, for the program office to worry about, but for the state to worry about, I'll be able to push that as, folk are doing a statewide, but not, it's up to Tunde to figure this out. And if they can walk me in, then me a favor. If they can't, I'm really, but I can point to something that says, they say we all have to do this together.
Okay, so that's part of what you'd like to see in the engagement letter.
Right.
Okay. Okay, thank you. James, anything here?
No, again, I think it's good, and I liked what somebody mentioned a while ago. It's not just the documents, but the why. Some why you want them. So if you have some additional documents that maybe are specifically asked for, but you go ahead and gather them. If you know the why, it makes it a little easier to answer the question. So, that for me is a big thing.
Okay, and you get at the why. From what I hear you all say, you're going to get at the why by having that kind of phone conversation. That doesn't happen when you just get a list, right?
Right.
Correct.
Okay, all right, excellent. Next question. Muska, next. Value, if any, do you think would derive if OCS review the monitoring tools with you prior? I think we've already heard that. Let's go to the next one. How would you use these tools if you received them in advance? So a pitch to OCS that they should send them to you in advance. What are you going to do with them? How would you use them?
Hey, this is nope.
Go ahead with it.
This is Jamie. Has been in quite a lull of vacancy in this position, so I'm working to kind of restructure some of the relationships even within our partners that would help with this documentation. So not only would this help us gather those documents, but it would help identify maybe some of those points that are weak ahead of time, and where we could actually then start moving the tool already of how are we going to improve that area, and what can we propose during our visit that we've already started to move the ball in improvement, even though that there'll be a different perspective around that when the visit happens. It would just kind of already kind of highlight maybe some of the things that are going to come up that aren't great performance.
Does this go into the concept of no surprises?
Yeah.
Okay. Tundi?
It will help ensure a successful outcome of the exercise if we put a lot of work into the planning ahead of time. Receiving it would help in the planning that will in turn help in ensuring a successful outcome.
Oh, good point. James?
I'll piggyback a little bit on what they said. I think, for our office especially, we have such a turnover in staff that getting these tools would be useful for our office just to sort of these new staff. It could almost be a training for them. You think you know what your job is, but until you're monitored by OCS, there's maybe things you haven't thought about. So for us, the sooner we can have them, the sooner our staff can understand why they're doing. And these are the really important things. Maybe not this, but this is what OCS is looking at. At the end of the day, they're our funder, so you'd be concerned about what they're going to be looking for. So,
Okay.
and it's only monitored every 3, 4, 5 years. I mean, the more we get these tools, the more it gets people thinking about, well, what it is OCS is looking at. So I think from my perspective, it'd be a great, teaching tool.
Okay. That's an interesting perspective. Thank you.
Yeah.
Excellent point. Doug, anything you want to add?
The only thing I add is that having an advance allows us to prepare more for their visit will make the visit go more efficiently. They're not waiting on us to gather documentation for them.
Great point. Next question then. Thank you all. Did you sense that these monitoring tools, some of you would have, but Jamie, let me ask you this. Oh no, you haven't gone through the monitoring yet. Let's skip this because I don't think this monitoring tool was used for any of you. Do any of you get a sense that this was used, the monitoring tool during last assessment? Probably not, right?
The items can be cherry-picked, but not in the format that we have it now.
Okay, let's skip this question. Let's go to the next one. Monitoring time frames. I'll take a little bit of time on this. I'll need you to walk. This is what the internal team is thinking of, or actually is proposing, and we're trying to get some feedback on this. So let's go to the next slide. So different cycles here. We have a pre-monitoring cycle, which is everything that happens before this comes on site, and then the post-monitoring cycle, which happens after they leave. The pre-monitoring, we kind of got 4 different things. So as you know, OCS does this assessment, the priority assessment each year to decide whom LIHEAP and CSBG do this, to decide whom they're going to be monitoring. And that's becoming more of a joint decision at this point. And what we're proposing is that as those decisions are made, that with 30 days of those decisions that the state notified, either a dear colleague or an information memorandum. It depends on, what the best practice is, but that you be notified within 30 days, or that the whole network would be notified within 30 days. That this is who's going to be monitored this year. Then the monitoring staff would communicate with the grantees who are actually going to be monitored no later than 30 days after establishing the monitoring calendar, which happens, in that priority assessment or shortly thereafter, after you all have been notified, they establish a calendar. That call would then talk about discussing and finalizing the dates for the actual on-site with each date, the engagement letter, the document request list, and then discussing all the trip logistics. This would be the second notification. The monitoring staff would be analyzing the documents that they get back from you all, and I've heard what you all time there, so we don't have that yet fleshed out in terms of 30 days, 90 days, whatever. There are other additional documents internal to OCS or internal to HHS. Then they follow up in terms of the trip details and send out a final agenda and a PowerPoint, and that would be no later than 2 weeks prior to the on-site. That's not in terms of getting documents, but just in terms of telling you what's going to be going on. Then they conduct the on-site. So we've got so far, what I've heard from you all is we need to put some time frames in there in terms of the amount of time you need to respond to the document request. Next, go to the next slide. So the question I have for you about those timelines, do you have any suggestions for OCS about the timelines? Let's go back to the slide, Muska. So keep that up while you all think about what's your reaction to these time frames. Tui?
The more time, the better, generally speaking.
Uh-huh.
Right.
But as you mentioned earlier, the more that you can find out ahead of time that you're on the list, even if you don't have the specifics, that's going to be helpful. So do these days, for instance, getting the final agenda 2 weeks in advance, is that good enough?
And I understand things happen, but our agenda did not come 2 weeks in advance. We got our final agenda on Tuesday, which has kind of put a little wrench in our planning here, especially when trying to plan staff schedules that need to be during entrance and exit conference and expectations of the additional agencies in my state that are going to need to be at the table. So 2 weeks, even then, had we got it at 2 weeks, it still would have been a little bit of a crunch. Hard to expect 30 days, but just considering the players that need to come to the table, at least in the state of Maine, 2 weeks was really hard, especially to get it 2 weeks ahead in the middle of July was really hard for us.
Yeah, and you're telling me you got it 4 days in advance?
Yeah, the final agenda 4 days in advance.
You definitely need more than 4 days. Okay, so in 2 weeks is a crunch. You'd prefer 30 days?
This would be very helpful.
Other reactions, James?
It sounds reasonable.
All right. What about the other time frame? Go ahead.
I was just that's pretty the agenda, and you know it's. I'm thinking the last time we were monitored, you know what they didn't tell us until the last minute, and again I'm going off a kind of shaky memory, but you know they wanted to go visit some of our grantees. I think even the week of they were still which grantees, you know, so we had some grantees that were scrambling to have staff in the office. So again, I can't remember exactly how far in advance, but it was very, very short notice, and again that was something sort of outside of our control. So
yeah, I hear you. Do you have any comments about this one?
I just wanted James about the notice. They're planning on visiting the grantee or the sub-grantees to give notice so that we can get their schedules. You know, 30 days would have been nice to give the grantees.
Okay.
They are busy.
All right. Oh, good point. Okay, let's go to the post-monitoring. Next slide. Next one. Okay, a little complicated. So, oh no, go back. Okay, so I want to quickly review. So what we're talking about here is after the monitoring is finished, we have to draft the monitoring report, to send an initial monitoring report. I'm going to call it the initial monitoring report. Draft, approve it, and issue it to the grantee. Has or not all of them do, within 45 calendar days of the conclusion of the review. The reason there's 30 to 45 is 30 is for SBG, 45 would be for IHEAP. So there's a little difference there, but in any case, it's 30 to 45. The group would then have 30 calendar days to respond to that initial report. And 3 days after receiving your response, or if we don't get a response on the 30th day, then the OCS would final monitoring report. There are required actions. The grantee has 45 calendar days from the issuance of the final monitoring report. That would basically be 60 days after the on-site to come up with corrective action. The OCS would have 15 calendar days to get back to you, either accepting it or asking for changes, and there'd be some back and forth until that was accepted, and then eventually there'd be the monitoring closeout letter. So some of the that we're looking to implement across OCS. So next slide, the question there is, do you have any suggestions about these time frames? Doug, start.
No, I don't have any suggestions. I think the time looks good.
yes.
Okay. opportunity?
Yeah, nice work. I mean, if there are no issues, I mean, that's fine. But if there are issues, the longer time, the quicker we find out about it, the better for us to start to address it.
Okay. So having 30 days is worth to you because then you can start addressing it. Okay.
Yeah, I got my last report 2 years after the exercise was conducted. Yeah. I mean,
Useless.
Right.
Yeah, that's useless. Yeah. That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to put these across because we know that that's useless to everybody. Okay, Jamie, you have any thoughts?
No, these time frames look reasonable.
Okay, great. All right, let's move on to training and technical assistance then. Next. Okay, we're basically looking at what you all need, what would be helpful. So let's go to the first question. What would help you prepare for the state assessment? Any specific kinds of training assistance that would help you?
This is, and I think somebody mentioned this before, having a follow-up call after getting the notification, but also to really talk about what's expected of this, the kind of, maybe even a pre-agenda right then and there to say this is what typical visits look like, this is what you could expect with variation based on your state, just to really give an understanding, especially if you have somebody who hasn't been through it either in this program or for me ever, to just provide a good overview of what these visits look like.
Okay. James?
You know, I don't know if this would even be feasible, but to have some sort of mechanism, you know, if a state, you know, and I'm going to go back to my specific issue, but it has any issue, ongoing issue that you know, have some sort of mechanism in place if there's a specific issue prior to, you know, that there's some way we could request specific to whatever the issue is. Does that make sense? You know, I don't know that anything would help us for the overall monitoring, but if we knew we had an issue with one specific, you know, where it is, and in our case it was, you know, trying to de-designate an agency, if there were some mechanism in place, you know, be it whether it was just a conference call, whether it was some sort of, we could head off, you know, we know we're going to be, you know, assessed in, you know, next month, we know we've got this problem, how could, whatever the specific problem was, have something in place that somebody could help us with that specific issue, whether it's simply a series of conference calls or, a, you know, a one-day some sort of training and technical assistance visit.
Okay, something that you would trigger, something that you would request because you would know what the issue is?
Exactly, yes.
All right, gotcha. Bob?
I don't have any suggestions for any technical assistance.
Okay.
No specific comment on this one. I concur with what my colleague said. If there's a reason why OES is coming now, then there should be a TA to support and get ready. If routine scheduled size it, then no TA needed, let them come. But if they're coming because they themselves have concerns, there should be some help, you know, on their part.
Okay, if it's a particular issue, you need some TA or some training. If it's just routine, you're pretty comfortable. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I just want to add anything on this. I think I've heard from all of you. All right, let's go to the next one. What time to receive any of this TN, like for assistance? CS was call you to tell you here's the process. When time to get that? Where? Jamie?
So the process prior to, it would have been within 30 days of the letter.
30 days of the letter, okay.
Of notification, letter. Like within, of the engagement letter.
The engagement 30
days to be able to go through all of this documentation and compile questions that I may have had, and then knowing that I had a follow-up call within 30 days. It would give them the appropriate time to also ask questions of the other agencies to see if they had any questions and bring it all together.
All right.
Jamie, within 30 days of the engagement letter.
James?
Days.
About that, Tunde?
Yeah, 30 is about right. Mm-hmm.
Next, this is obvious, but who will conduct this training? Is it just OCS? Do you think for NASCAS? Anybody you want training from regarding grant monitoring? Tunde?
The membership organizations, either the state association or NASCAS.
It's membership organization, so you'd want NASCAS to be dealing with them or the state association. Okay.
Right.
Jamie?
Agree with that. Anybody that is going to be conducting or helping with this type of assessment from that level should be involved.
Okay, Doug?
I think OCS, since they're monitoring, I would want the training to come from them.
Okay.
I'm going to say NASCAP. We have had a good experience with OCS, but I to agree with Doug, it would be reasonable that OCS would do the training. But I just personal experience, we haven't had a very good history with them. So we've had a much better history with NASCAP. So that's, like I said, that's a little bit personal there. So.
No, okay. So it's just at this point we're not going to be talking about you specifically. What was it NASCAS provided that you didn't get from OCS? What was it that was the sort of the plus there?
For South Carolina?
Yeah.
Well, we think the biggest thing we didn't get from OCS was a lot of clarity, and it seemed that if we got on the phone from OCS, if we spoke to a different individual, we'd get a different sort of answer. And again, nothing clear, nothing concrete. It seemed to goalposts were moved, and if we would talk to somebody that was more of a finance background, they tended to be more finance. So and maybe that's the thing. If OCS were to do the training, for them to have a way of speaking more with one voice and a little bit clearer voice, I don't know. But we never felt like we got a definitive answer on anything. So that was kind of, and we felt like when NASCAS came in, they were very upfront, that we don't have the final call on anything, but at least their answers were a little more uniform.
So having some uniform clarity, and hopefully, the question would be if in fact the T you're getting, if you were to get it from OCS and they were using the request list and the grant monitoring tools, that might provide some uniformity. If you could use those things to have your discussions, that might help you with what your concerns are. That at least would be the hope. Who did I get on this one? Did everybody get to comment on this?
Except Tunde. So, I think for comfort, NASCAS will give you more comfort. OCS is invested in conducting the exercise, and they may be not as objective in delivering and TA, but CAPS is for trust and comfort levels.
Okay.
Might do a better job delivering TA.
Okay. Interesting. All right. Well, you guys are hanging in there. I appreciate it. We're on the wrap up. 3 final questions. I think we have enough time to get through this. Next slide. What might be the advantages or disadvantages of joint CSBG LIHEAP monitoring on-site visits? So I'm only going to answer this at South Carolina. If we sent you the joint list, or we sent you, either joint monitoring tool, what do you think about having a joint on-site visit? Would too much? Would it be efficient? What's your reaction?
It'd be great. You know, it's especially from our finance folks. I mean, you know, it's you obviously have a monitoring visit. You're interrupting your business cycle. So I think to knock all out, you know, you're sort of dead in the water for that week, that 3 days, whatever. Anyway, so to go ahead and knock it all out at once, and I would think, especially from a finance perspective, any finding or any issue we may have with CSBG, the likelihood would be that the same issue might be happening at LAHEAP, so you could really nip it, you know, at the same time. So I think it would be extremely advantageous to do it. And, you know, one of the things our sub-grantees always complain about is the constant interruption of work. So, again, if they're going out and visiting a sub-grantee, it's a one-time deal as opposed to, you know, going out 2 different times or whatever. I think it's
terrific. One follow-on question to that. Would you want one monitoring report or would you want 2 separate reports? Let's say at a joint visit, would you want 1 report or 2?
I think for us, 1 would be fine, again, because they are both handled out of our office, so the same folks would be answering it. So for us, South Carolina, 1 report would actually be best.
Okay. Next question.
Can I interject just a comment in there about this is not direct. My agency doesn't directly receive the LAHEAP money, but we do get some money passed through to us, and so we were involved with a LAHEAP monitoring visit a week before OCS came out to do the CSB monitoring. So I comment on, you know, if they should have done it at the same time, but if they could have at least coordinated that so staff and program staff weren't involved in 2 weeks in a row of having OCS here monitoring.
Yeah, very good. Could have avoided that. Question. So anything we discussed today, do you have any other suggestions for how OCS could improve the monitoring? It's kind of open-ended. This is your chance to suggest anything else. Wendy?
Yes, I think needs to own the trust building ahead of the exercise. If we're saying we're just going to clamp up and it's not going to be a good exercise, so they need to work on that. They get to the stage, they can't do a divide and conquer like some of them like to do. They left me aside and they went to the eligible entity by themselves. Of course, I was screaming, but they said they just wanted to give the eligible entity the opportunity to speak with candor. The eligible entity did not like that either. So that speaks to trust. I think they damaged whatever intentions they might have had by springing that on me on the day that they were going to go to the CAA. So,
understood.
Yeah, I think we should build trust ahead of the exercise. And
Jamie. Thank you, Jamie.
I do agree with that, as well as my agencies. One of them got notified on Monday that they were getting a visit. It got switched, and they then became a little bit more stressed that I couldn't be on site with them. However, for the sake of my comment, it's just about getting out all of this information is about transparency, and that's one thing that Maine strives for with our eligible entities. And so if we had that same with OCS, it would just be more comfortable and feel a little less stressful.
You had more transparency, less stressful, and so my question would be, do documents you saw today, the request list, the monitoring tools, does that provide more transparency?
Yes.
Therefore, some less stress. Okay.
Yes.
Doug, any comments? What would you suggest? Yeah.
I would suggest that they allow us to pick the eligible entities that they want to visit, or at least suggestions. You know, I think some agencies, eligible eligible entities that are doing well that we would like to highlight to OCS. Some that are maybe struggling, and I understand that they want to visit ones based on even going on in Kansas, but it would be nice if we could just say, hey, go here because this is a really great agency and really will great work we're doing.
So from everything so far, we'll get to you, James. To some extent, it goes back to what you said at the beginning in terms of partnering and collaboration. The partnering and collaboration is working with you about what eligible entities to be looking at. Is that a fair statement?
That's a fair statement, yes.
Okay. What would you suggest of improvements?
Just go back to the whole trust thing. You know, they were here, and again, we had some unusual circumstances, but they actually went to an eligible entity and did not tell us, the state office, and you know that was they contacted the agency directly, and you know it very much undermined any credibility in my mind they had, and you know we also found out that they had quite a bit of conversations out notifying us with the agencies, and that was not our understanding of the way the process was supposed to work. So if that is, you know, if it just the transparency and trust, I think, you know, we felt like we gotcha, and so it really did not make for a pleasant exercise. So.
Okay, the gotcha versus the collaboration. Okay, one last question. So, if I was to win the lottery tomorrow and I escaped to some ocean island, which, believe me, that's where I'd go, and I forgot everything, all the good things you told me today, and if this recording was erased, although we know we'll never do that, what one thing, tell me the one thing from today's discussion that you would want OCS NASCAS to find out about? What one thing do you want remembered? Tundi?
Well, the monitoring does not have to be full, and that is a necessary part of showcasing the work that the state and CS are doing.
Okay. Hey.
I would concur with that.
Okay, Doug?
Just that it should be a collaborative process where both sides give input. So, you know, OCS as well as the state office gets to provide input into it.
James?
I'll concur. You know, just that it should feel more like a partnership rather than a heavy hand coming in. So.
And again, my last question to you then, James, is if we were able to implement the things we talked about today and the time frames, would that feel more like a collaboration to you?
Yes, and
a partnership?
Yeah, and again, like I say, I think going back to the trust, and you know, I'm one of those people. I don't care what, you know, if they're going to do things, but just be upfront with me. Tell me everything when you're coming in, and what we're looking for, why we're looking for it, and you know, I think just transparent. And to me, that's a partnership. If you've got a problem, we're not going to work it out when you're not transparent, because again, people aren't going to be telling you everything. And again, if you don't know what somebody's looking for and why, you really can't help them answer. So.
Okay. All right. My goodness, that time went fast. You have all been very, very helpful, very forthcoming. I think we got some very useful and helpful information. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. We will be to some other grantees, so you've really got us on a good to start and to move forward. And we'll be sure to get back in touch with you and let you know what the result of all of this was. So again, and I hope you all have a really wonderful weekend. Take good care.
Hey, the monitoring work group is staying,
Thank
right?
you, Kate.
Yes, thank you. The monitoring work group should stay on the line. Thank you. Bye. All right, is that who we have left?
Call-in users, 12 and 13, but I don't know who that would be.
Okay, so we can disconnect Tundi.
I'm on. I'm Lauren Perry. I don't know if I show up as a call-in or what.
You do.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, Lauren, you should be on the line. Okay.
This is great. I'm on the line still.
Okay, I see Greg and Chris and Lauren and Matt. So we have the team on. Okay. Woo. I'll start a breath. Okay.
Not Kate.
Excellent. Good job.
Yeah, I did better than I expected.
That was really, you moved through everything. We got to hear from everybody. I just want to say that I thought you did a terrific job.
Great. Well, thank you. I am much relieved. I had no idea if this was going to work. Believe me. I'm used to seeing people, so it was like, oh my God. But it helped that there were only 4 to start with. I mean, I really wanted more people in this, but probably for our initial run, having 4 wasn't too bad. It's some sense of what questions we might be able to either drop or change. Did you get a sense of questions that didn't work so well or that you changed?
I had trouble telling if it was whether it was in advance and weren't any questions, or I'm not sure if you drop it. If in advance and just totally understood it and had no questions, then yeah, it needs to be dropped. A couple like that, but I wasn't aware.
Okay. I wasn't sure. Okay. Yep. Good.
Kate, you know what? Can you moved pretty good. I think you noticed if there was a line with their statement with a question. So, I don't know if we would want to drop any. If you could do the same thing with the next focus group.
Next, have the same questions. Yeah.
But was there one in there, Kate, about the tool, and then you were like, no one has used this tool, so we could go by that question?
Yeah, that was one that this group that's going to use it is Jamie, and she hasn't started yet. The rest haven't been.
Right.
I don't think the tool's been used. Yeah, so that we'd have to wait and see. Yeah, use tool. Let me look at that. Use tool. That might be one to skip. It just occurred to me, just changing topics a little bit. In terms of the people who could come today, which included Idaho, Connecticut, Wyoming, the 3 that couldn't come, right? Idaho,
yes.
Connecticut, and Wyoming.
Yep.
Let's see if we could put them into Group 4, August 24th group.
Yeah, Gina's already in that group, Wyoming.
Okay, great. So,
Talk about adding Idaho and Connecticut.
Yeah,
okay.
We might want to wait, and we might want to wait. Have we heard back from those? Have they all given you? Because today was their deadline, wasn't it?
Yeah, all the other groups had today as their deadline. Groups, 2, 3, and 4.
I'm not heard from anybody, so I can follow up Monday. I can start following up.
We heard from Michelle in Tennessee, didn't we? I thought we got an email.
No, sorry, I haven't heard from anybody today. As in, travelers trying to get in the confirmation.
Yeah. So I don't want to go through all of the specifics with everybody on the line. My only thought is let's first nail down who from Group 4 on August 24th has agreed, and if less than the 8, then let's add Connecticut and Idaho. In fact, everybody says they can come, then we probably can't add them. But let's think about adding them into August 24th. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. Any other thoughts about how to improve this? Oh, Greg, did the note-taking thing work? Was that full?
Yeah, it worked. Very helpful. I got a lot down. How
good.
I can access the recording. Because I'm just gonna. It'll clarify when I type all this stuff up. And my goal is I should have it all done sometime at the end of next week, and I'll just distribute it to everybody. Is that how you want that done?
About this. So I'm wondering, do you all want to get this piecemeal, or should we just put it together and get it as one document? Particularly don't need the notes for this group next week. My tendency is to look at it after all 4 groups and have it all together. What's the rest of you think? Do you want to see it?
The reason I would even want to see it is if it was for changes, you know, but otherwise, to changes. But otherwise, yeah, I think it makes sense at the end.
And Lauren, did you take notes today, or are you taking notes in another session?
Notes in another session. I didn't know.
So I'm going to leave it between you and Greg to work that out. I don't need to be involved in that.
Okay.
But I think what we want at the end, if possible, is one document. So section 1, we'd have one, and we have answers from all 4 groups. And what you might want to do is code based on the group, so that you can see who, you know, from the small agencies, from the large agencies, et cetera, or from, you know, group 1, 2, 3, and 4. If we can have it all in one document, that might be the best, as opposed to trying to have 4 documents from 4 different groups. Clear?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, that would be the most helpful. Are there any other thoughts? We should have asked that we didn't, that you wish. I didn't see any of you come forward with any question while I was looking. But is there any? Could ask?
No, well, it'd be interesting if we could get Jamie on later on after she's had her visit.
That's an interesting thought. Let's think about that. That's a good point. So she would be not monitored large grantees. Again, maybe we can ask her to be part of group 4. About that, the August 24th, maybe to ask her to join again. Or we just have a separate one-on-one with her. Asking her to sit through another 90 minutes might be a bit much. Maybe we can ask her, maybe we do a one-on-one conversation with her.
Yeah.
Did Bill and Alicia stay on? They didn't. Oh, yeah, Bill on, isn't he? Bill on? Okay.
You must have just not logged off of the webinar.
Okay. If it's too late, just feel free to give me, send me a message. At this again later in terms of any tweaking. The thought is because we did start late. I'm wondering if we shouldn't ask people when we send out the message, Muska, get onto the call 10 minutes in advance, because we really want to start on time.
Yeah.
It does take time for people to, get acclimated and do all of that, and I understand that. But I always get on 10 minutes in advance, so I'm ready. So if we ask people to come on 10 minutes in advance, we could actually get ready, because we didn't really start until 2:07. So, and we were able to make it up. I've always had some leeway. But the only other thought I have is there any, since we might have a little bit of time, and it can depend if we have more people. If we have more people, we will crush, so we have to make sure we start on time. Is there any other area we'd want to talk about that we haven't? I know these are our 4 main areas, and ask about the live heat CSBD stuff, but is there anything else that we're not including that maybe we would if we thought we had the time? Any of your mind? this is what we need? You think this will do it? All right.
They spent a lot of time talking about the procedures of or the ethics of it. You know what I mean? More so than the document. How you get
more about the what of it,
like
as
ethics or how you do it, the trust and all that. You know what I mean?
And the collaboration and the partnership.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know how you.
Yeah. We can only hope, which is this connection I tried to make, that if that. I mean, the thing is, if the theme carries out with the others, and I suspect it might, you're trying to build collaboration and trust and transparency. Therefore, you would implement these things. You send out the document request list 30 days or 60 days in advance. You would have the pre-call. You would send out the monitoring tool. You do these things, therefore you would have the trust. That's going to be the connection there.
Yeah.
Yeah, to me that's the name of the game. Okay.
There was a couple things in there that shocked me. To say that you would change, and visit somebody and talk to some agencies, that kind of stuff. I had never considered that.
No, that's something that, we can raise, and right, these are the things we can say, undermine the effectiveness you want to have, undermine the impact. And remember, these were small agencies recently, the last couple of years, who scored OCS poorly. These
right.
got poor scores on the ACS side. So these people, and I think they told us why. Because obviously there wasn't trust, obviously there wasn't collaboration. I mean, they told us why they scored poorly without saying, and
yeah.
kind of came through.
They were actually pretty kind from some of the stuff that I heard happened. They were not as strict as they could have been.
Right.
Yeah, I think they were clear.
Yeah.
Not antagonistic, but clear. Terrific. All right, this has been actually great fun. You have helped a lot in getting this on point and getting it done right. So I really appreciate it. Our next one isn't for 2 weeks, so we get a little bit of a breath. So next one is August 3rd. So most of you and I will work next week to get that one nailed down. And who I'm going to be on the August 3rd, or who's going to be on the August 3rd one? Is it August 3rd? Yeah.
August
1.
Be
on that one.
I feel like I'm a participant, right? Sorry, Greg.
This is the recently monitored large grantees, and Virginia, I think you're a participant on that one, yeah.
Yeah, so is Chris from Michigan. She's a participant as well.
Okay. So then we'll have Greg, Lauren, will you both be on that one?
You will.
Yes, I plan on being on too.
Okay, so we need to see if we can get Everly on that one too. All right, terrific. Thank you all. Have a great weekend. Appreciate it. Take care.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks.